Hey, and welcome to the Vergecast for the week of January 21st, 2013. I'm Josh Topolsky.
I'm Nilay Patel.
And a special guest here with us.
Ben Popper.
Ben Popper.
Yeah.
Reporter extraordinaire.
El Paparoso.
Beautiful man.
Jalapeno Popper.
Soon to be a father.
Yeah.
Forthcoming father.
Yeah. Owner of many chickens.
Owner of a number of chickens.
Part-time urban farmer.
Part-time herb farmer. Also.
Herb farm.
Herb farm.
Yeah.
Herb. It's a herb farm.
Herb.
It's British.
Herb's
That's
farm.
terrible. We don't know where Paul is, by the way.
We don't know where Paul was supposed to be on the.
Right.
He was supposed to be on the Vergecast today. We can't find him.
Paul is AWOL.
My guess is he's either his bone battery is dead, or he's dead. Either way, great loss.
Terrible
for
loss
us.
for humanity.
What's going on with my hair here? This is really just hanging out there. Yeah. Anyhow, we got to talk about breaking news right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big
We
deal.
got breaking news.
Minutes ago.
J.J. Abrams is going to direct the next Star Wars.
What?
Yes.
And I have to say, Nilay told me, and I had to do a double take. Like,
Did it not
I was
Star
like,
Trek?
Star Wars?
Yeah, right.
So, by the way, this is unprecedented, I think,
Yes.
that a director has done will do a Star Wars and a Star Trek
Yes.
movie.
That's
Yes.
right.
I feel like I have to say there needs to be some kind of crossover. There needs to be a wink, a sound
I'm sure
effect.
there will be. I mean, he's into the winky stuff, but like this is
Yeah.
a disaster.
A
I'm
few
not-
Easter
I'm gonna tell
eggs.
You think it's a
straight
disaster?
up. It's a disaster.
I understand that the new Star Wars movie is going to end. They finally get the hatch open, and then it ends. Episode.
I mean,
who
it's just
laughed? Who laughed? Was that John?
That was John.
Yeah,
dying.
he likes that. Huh?
I mean, what?
Hey, everybody's
Like,
got their
it's a
thing.
bad idea for them to go back to the Star Wars well, and I understand they sold
I
it to
don't
Disney,
think
and
so.
like Lucas is out, and like whatever. And
Here's
fresh
the-
new talent.
I think the mistake is not making a Star Wars a very expensive, beautifully produced Star Wars series on television. I think that's what they should do.
Right.
They should just make Game of Thrones for Star Wars.
HBO should do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would watch that religiously, and I think that a lot of millions and millions and millions of other people would as well.
Go deep into the novels.
Go deep. They have the
Yeah.
whole canon. You know, they've got this whole huge arrangement of stories and backstories and side stories. Like they've got tons of books.
Right.
Yeah.
Just so much content to pull from.
Who would you pick to play? Go. Give me the leads. Who would you pick to play?
I don't
you
know.
got
I
this
don't know. I don't know where we're at. Where are we at in the
Right.
story? I mean, you tell me.
I mean, we're just going to start with the canonical.
We starting with
we're gonna
like
redo it.
New Hope
Yeah,
group.
we're going to start on Tatooine. You know, we're just going to pick up.
Like at
right.
what point is Luke born? Is he? Is it
Yeah, he's a teen.
teen Luke?
Yeah, he's a tween.
Teen
Tween.
Luke?
Yeah.
That's Bieber. All
Hayden
the way.
Christensen.
Bieber. I think that's Bieber territory.
That's definitely Bieber
All right,
territory.
let's say teen Luke.
Bieber.
Bieber's not casting a singing drumming sensation. It's like and they like have to work it in every episode.
Yeah.
It's like his Uncle Ben comes to visit
who's
him,
hot with the
and he's
teams?
like,
They go
what's
to-
all that racket? And he's like soloing.
They go to
playing
the space
drums.
cantina and he like jumps up on stage and starts.
Yeah.
Or I don't know why he's playing guitar, but I'm
Look,
sure
Let me just see what happens when you Google hottest teen vampires.
that doesn't even make any sense.
What? It does.
I think that for young Luke.
Best teen vampire.
I don't know any young stars, so I think it would be weird if I was like, obviously,
Right.
some random young.
Can we just
boy-
do the
You have
cast?
to
young
admit
boy
that you
star.
still have a subscription to Tiger Beat.
I'll be honest with you, Tiger Beat actually writes some really in-depth stuff. They had
Yeah.
a great expose.
I'm here on the Vampire
eye
Diaries
makeup.
webpage.
These are C-list, dude.
Yeah,
We're
but
looking
you
for-
you need like,
This is HBO. We're talking high class. You could get anybody.
but
Peter
teens.
Dinklage would be Yoda in a thing.
This is wrong.
This is terrible.
This is wrong. But he would make a good Yoda.
He would make a great Yoda.
He'd be like more of a. He'd be a bigger Yoda though. Yoda's
Yeah.
really tiny. Yoda's like 2 feet tall.
Is there really a
Well,
guy
we're-
named
we're
Stephen
rethinking
Army
everything.
Queen in this world?
Yes. Anyhow, we've done no casting whatsoever.
Right.
Well, I think anybody named Stephen Army Queen.
Anyhow, this is the Vergecast where we talk about the week. And,
Wait, by the way, Stephen Army Queen as Luke Skywalker is a great. It just sounds.
I'd
Good.
like to get. Is Luke Skywalker still
I don't even know
around
who that is.
from Two Live Cruise? He's still with us, right? On the. He's still in the living,
Yeah,
right?
I think he's around.
I'd like to see Luke Skywalker as Luke Skywalker.
Nice.
That would be a really different take
Yeah.
on the mythology. And yeah, this is the Vergecast where we discuss the week in technology, culture, and culture. And this was a crazy week. We've had a crazy week.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Ending with or getting towards the end with this J.J. Abrams news, which is totally bonkers.
YOLO, you know?
Oh, right. And the YOLO, we saw the YOLO smartphone announced today from Intel, which they've done. For Africa. It's an Android device, and they've done nothing to promote the fact that the name is like super trendy and really useful.
Right. But they do have Will.i.am on staff making these kinds of decisions.
That's a lie.
He's officially Intel's like director of innovation. Will.i.am.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know.
Look
What is Will.i.am's voice like? I imagine it's like, "Hey, man." It's not like that though, is it?
No, not
it's
at
like
all.
it's like
But that's also your Tim Cook voice.
hey,
so-
hey, Tim Cook. Hey, no, Tim Cook he's like, "Hey, I'm down here. It's me, Tim Cook."
He's George
record.
Bush.
We had a record year, record
Yeah.
quarter. Oh, too bad about our stock though.
We'll talk about that
Our
soon.
stock's been totally destroyed.
Yeah. Down.
Really
12,
bad.
13%.
13% now.
It's on a bit of a slump. On a bit
It
of a
is.
slide.
It is. I really feel for the guys who were like bought it at 6.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's going up to 1,000, and then it went to like 7. And they're like, here we go, and now it's like 430. And they're like, wait a second.
I don't think Gene Munster hasn't gotten out of bed in like 3, maybe 4 days.
Gene Munster.
he
is
doesn't
part-
need to.
Gene Munster is part of the problem.
All right. We should get to that later. Let's.
Okay. Do we want to bring Dieter in?
Yeah. We
have
ran
Dieter
a
here
huge story this
live
week.
via satellite
This morning.
We had a huge story this morning, which is still like
Still rocking along.
doing bonkers.
Reverberating.
It's doing bonkers traffic, and people have really been into it. We did this story about Google and their design, their kind of like rebirth of design, or actually just birth, like number one started design. Google has in the last year or 2 years really altered the UI and UX of their products.
Unified.
And they've unified, but they've also dramatically altered. And in fact, I think like in the mobile space, they've done some really innovative stuff. And in the web space as well. But so we kind of went into the guts of Google and we said, tell us your story. And Dieter Bohn and Ellis Hamburger worked a ton on this report.
Yeah.
And collectively.
Ellis apparently worked so hard on it last night that he wasn't available to come
Right.
in.
It's a hamburger
They
bone
worked.
joint.
They worked.
Hamburger Bone.
They worked so much on it that we were trying to invent a name for them, which is either Hamburger Bone or, what was
It's
it?
Hamburger Bone.
Dieter Hamburger. Anyway, can we get Dieter Hamburger on the line here? I think we have him via Skype. There he is.
Dieter Burger.
Hey,
Look
All
at
right.
this.
Tell us about
where
Google.
are you? That's a beautiful backdrop you have.
this is the Verge West offices.
That's our
Yes.
office.
No, the last time I was there, they didn't have any artwork or anything. This is Verge
Oh yeah,
West. I love it.
it's amazing. And you can see we've got a beautiful.
Look at that
table
table.
and a
You got a
pinboard.
table. You have a TV over there. You have.
Classy.
Now I can't see what that image is over your shoulder, but it looks like a cartoon duck face with really small eyes, with wearing
Wow,
some sort
no,
of
that-
like
that would be a
wearing
space
some
helmet.
sort of like chunky sweater. That's not what he is though, is it? What is that?
No,
What is that?
this thing right here.
Yeah.
Ooh, well done.
Yeah, it's a space helmet. It's a.
Oh, that's pretty close. Pretty close. Cartoon duck face wearing a chunky sweater. It's basically like a space helmet. Peter, can you tell us about? First off, thank you for joining us. I mean, not like you had a choice. You work for the Verge, so that's what you're going to do. Say no. Say no. I don't think so. Tell us about this Google piece. Tell us about what you learned.
So, I mean, we, like everybody else, we noticed that Google's apps look really good, especially on the iPhone. So we said, hey, Google, tell us what the story is. And they said, come on over. So we interviewed a whole bunch of people. We interviewed Matias Duarte. We interviewed John Wiley, who leads up the search team, a Maps guy, their Gmail guys, Chrome team. And we said, how'd you manage to do this? And the story basically works like this. When Larry Page came on, he said, look, we need to get better at design. Do it now. And they formed like this super team of designers, and they picked a direction. They codenamed it Kennedy, and that turned into what we saw on search and Gmail and everything else on the web just a few months later. And then they just continued that sort of urgency and that way of working where they have like a core team of designers that sort of does the vision, and then they distribute it out to all the different product teams. And that's allowed them to make rapid improvements on their apps, especially on iOS. So like Gmail went from being terrible to being really pretty good.
Yeah.
Maps, of course, came along. And so like the super interesting thing is they're not doing this the same way that like Apple does design. They don't have, I keep calling it a grand poobah, but that sounds really weird. They don't have a grand master of design. They've got a core team of guys, and then, whatever the latest thing is, they say that looks really cool. Let's use that to build on it to keep building the design language forward.
Yeah. I mean, he was right, by the way, like they really did need help in the design department. I mean, you kind of forget how bad some of Google's design was. I mean,
It was terrible.
They were knocked for it constantly. But now you look at what they've done, and you look at stuff like Gmail, which still has its kinks and quirks, but some of this, like the Google Now we're looking at right now, is just they really did some impressive, clean. You know, they let stuff breathe. Wow, that shirt that Matthias.
Yeah,
is
it's just
wearing.
funny that Matthias is like he does all this
He's
crazy
messing- now
clean
he's-
design.
I think he's messing
and
with
then he
us.
wears the most insane shirts.
I think Matthias is now just kind of screwing with us, but every time we hang out with him, he's got like a more outrageous shirt on. The next one's just going to be like weird spikes that defy the laws of physics. Like
Right.
it's going to be like his shirt's going to be a black hole that you see through him on it. Anyhow, I have to say, I mean, I thought the report and the video. Can I just, you know,
Hey, how many takes did you do of the bicycle?
Yeah, did you fall off the bikes at all? If you guys haven't seen this
the
video, by the
bicycle-
way, you should watch it.
Yeah, the sun was going down, and so if you see some of the stand-ups where Ellis is talking to the camera, and it's like dark, and it looks like a scene from Heat.
Yeah.
So we were fighting the sun going down.
I like that.
So we managed to get it done in maybe like 4 or 5 takes.
I think this is
I like it.
it's incredible. And these are the Google bikes, by the way, that are just hanging out on campus. You can just grab and ride around, right?
Not that comfortable, actually.
Yeah.
Turns
Well, they
out.
don't want you to
can't
they don't want you
really-
to be too comfortable.
Yeah,
you got
you've got to
work
get
to do.
back to work.
You only did 1,000
So, Dieter, let me
lines of
ask you
code.
this. So, Google was famous, and I know this is like a Larry Page thing, but during sort of when Marissa Maya was there, Google's really famous for we're going to A/B test 41 Shades of Blue or whatever.
Yeah, this was
it
actually a famous quote from one of their designers.
Right,
that
he quit
They
because-
were like engineering which blue they were going to use.
So, is there any element of that still going on, or is it now just completely designer driven?
So there's still A/B testing stuff, especially on the website, because obviously it's a lot easier to do testing on web pages. But they're not doing it down to that granular level. They're still what they're doing now is they're letting their designers kind of create an overall vision and make decisions based on like their aesthetic judgment, and then A/B testing where appropriate, instead of like A/B testing everything and not having an overall design vision driving what their stuff looks like.
Yeah, it does seem like they've actually accepted. I think Google's done this in a lot of places where they've just accepted, hey, you can't engineer your way out of every problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you actually just have to design it or build it by hand.
But I think it's like more googly because they're all working on it in concert and suggesting things. Not a Steve Jobs or Joni Ive saying this is the way it will be. You know, an aluminum band,
Right.
come hell or high water.
Right. No, it's
Yeah.
definitely definitely seems to be a. I mean, is there a dictator here, or is it more like they're all collectively working to make this stuff beautiful?
So it's a very like Google way of thinking about it. There's no dictator, but there is this sort of central team of designers that is called UXA, which is sort of like a really secretive kind of group.
It's like a
'cause
skunk
they're
works
they're-
almost.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of information about them out there on the web other than like job listings, basically. But that group kind of came out of the team that built this first Kennedy redesign. And they make the vision, but then when it comes time to actually implement it in a product, it's not like the designer working with the product team has to like go back and say, is this okay? Is this okay, guys? They just implement it and work with their team to put it out there. And that's one of the reasons that you'll see, small variations between apps. So, the loader on the Google Plus, when you pull it down, is like those 4 bars and the colors change. And then they iterated on that with Gmail with the little circular spinner thing. So like they're building off of each other, but they're not like in lockstep. They're just sort of, iterating together.
This UXA group is in New York. Is that right? Are they all based in New York?
Yeah.
And
Well, so most of them, yeah. I mean, I'm not, we don't know the full story on it. We know that, it's a few people.
Right, 'cause they
and we
actually
know
are,
that,
like, trying
they're
to keep
working
some
really
of it-
closely with everybody.
they're actually trying to keep some of this like a little bit mysterious.
This is the Area 51
Yeah.
of Google.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah,
do you think they are they worried about poaching, or are they trying to? Do they just want this thing to be able to operate in total secrecy, like this other group they have?
So the thing you need to understand about Google is none of it's top down. Larry Page has made some changes, but it's still a whole lot of independent teams. And so if you want to get something done and affect change across the company, you need the remit from Larry to do it. But you can't just walk into a group and be like, all right, you guys do this thing, because they're all collaborative and they all need to work together.
Right.
So I think that like having this team be kind of under the radar means that they actually get to be collaborative and get to work with people instead of dictating something. And I think that, that's a very Google way of thinking about design. And, who knows how long it'll be kept up, but for now it seems to be working really well.
So what I think is really interesting is that it's kind of like all this doesn't matter for Android, right? So Matthias is there,
Right.
and they I think Android has begun to look extremely beautiful. Like on my Nexus 4, I look at him like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But like Samsung sells all the phones and they just do whatever they
ruin,
want.
They ruin it.
But then there's their iOS apps where they're able to fully express their vision of design because they control the apps. And I look at Gmail, the Gmail app on my iPad, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I do my email in that app now.
Well, it's amazing in some ways, and also sort of.
Well, it's frustrating. It has execution problems.
From a visual design standpoint, it looks really good. From a UX standpoint, from an actual how you get from point A to point B, you know, and I agree. Like picking a label is way more steps than I think they could have come up with. You know, I think.
I think you have I think you have far more labels than I do.
I don't. Even if you have one label, you have to get to labels. You have to go through like 3 button presses.
Push a button.
You push a button and then another button and then another button.
But in the video, they were saying how maybe some of it harkens back to like that original Google splash page, right? Super simple with the colors and a little bit of cartoony. And I like how this is clean, modern design, but it's also like hand drawn. It's a little playful.
Right. No, like the city drawings are really. I actually feel like it is that exact. The funny thing is, you talk about like this extreme digitally native with Microsoft, whatever they call it, not digitally native, but digitally authentic.
Yeah.
Right. And then so you look at Windows and it's very much Windows and Windows Phone.
Well, it's a spectrum. You've got Apple aping the
Apple's
real world,
way on the other
and you've
side.
got Microsoft that's completely flat and sparse, and Google's like charting a course right down the middle.
And
of
Google's like you can have a little bit of playfulness in the digital stuff,
right?
But not like so playful that it's leather stitching. And I think they got it right. They realized. I mean, and I feel like that's for the web as well as back on devices.
Well, no, but
it's just enough. It's just enough from real world stuff.
But that's my question, I think, to Dieter, which is. They're expressing this on the web, which is their native platform. I think that's still Google's native platform.
Yeah.
They're expressing it in iOS, I think, very well. I think their apps on iOS are best in class in terms of UI. Maybe not always in terms of execution.
Yeah, I think there's issues, but they're really beautiful.
And then there's like this disaster of Android, which is their platform.
Well, so
it's not a disaster.
There's one place on Android that's not a disaster. That's Google Now, and I think that shows both on Android where they had a fresh, clean space to design in, and on iOS where like there's no like legacy there. There's not a long legacy that they have to work with. And so when you've got a fresh, clean slate and you've got good ideas, you're going to get good design. The problem with Android is that it's not a clean slate.
My guess I would have.
Well, it's a clean slate for Samsung. I mean, if the Galaxy S4 comes out and Samsung wants to change TouchWiz completely, it doesn't matter what Google did.
Yeah, but I think that my impression is that they had a break with their design language at Honeycomb.
Right.
Honeycomb, suddenly something changed where they were like, we're not going to do what we were doing before. We're going to take it in a totally different direction. And that since Honeycomb has been progressing, and I feel like they're at a point, looking at Google now, looking at some of the changes they've recently made to Gmail, looking at some of the stuff that happened in 4.2, like the camera UI, for instance, which is a totally rethought UI. My impression is they're going to hit Android 5, and it is going to be like Google Now everything.
Does that match up with the timeline? Like Larry Page comes back and then Honeycomb, and does that match up with the timeline?
I think that the Honeycomb timeline starts with Matthias Duarte being there and starting to say like Android's going to have a design. It's going to have a sense of design.
Right.
Like the thing there was that Android up until that point had an extremely weird, bad. Like we threw a bunch of parts together and some of them look like this and some of them look like that. And there were places where you would select text one way and then there were other places where you'd select text another way. Like I remember writing my review of Gingerbread and whatever the device was, I think the Nexus S, and just saying like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you selecting text in 2 different ways on the same device? So they like kind of cleaned the slate or started cleaning the slate on that stuff.
Right.
I think that, but I think there is, to your point, Nilay, there is a design. There does seem to be like a disconnected point,
Right.
But also like think about how long it took for them to bring Google Docs into their new design language. It didn't happen overnight. It was like Gmail and then a couple of other things.
Well, I just
the calendar still looks a little bit.
I'm very curious to see if Dieter like asked this question. I mean, like Android it's a complete Wild West because you can the OEMs change everything about it.
Yeah, nobody ever sees to Android.
Nobody ever sees like there's a Nexus 4.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
Only Googlers who get the phone.
Only Googlers who get the phone.
They think it's great. Why does everybody not like this phone?
Only a small part of the audience that sees. It's really kind of depressing to me. You know,
so, Dieter, what was your sense there? Did you talk about Android a lot, or were you mostly talking about the web and the iOS stuff? Like, you talked to Matthias.
We talked with Matthias Duarte a lot about Holo because I started out like Google Now doesn't look like Holo. He's like, wait. Hollow is actually like it's not a design language per se. It's more like
That's ridiculous.
setting up the rules for how the universe works. So it's like the physics of the Android universe, and things move this way and things move that way.
I kind of understand that, but there are definitely Hollow design guidelines.
Yeah. Like Hollow apps, we have threads in our forums that are like, list all the Hollow apps, and they all look the same.
Right.
Like,
but I mean, I think it's because, but you do say like you're going to use panels, and suddenly people go like, well, what should my panel look like? And you've got this off the shelf.
anyway, continue, Dieter. We don't need to.
Go on.
I don't mean to.
Dieter.
Oh, no. So like Matthias Duarte makes the case that Hollow is flexible enough to have something that looks like Google Now sort of fit into its framework. And I think it's just a matter of like, they just need to decide what they want Android to look like going forward and keep pushing consistency and not make, quick changes on one app, but not the rest. So it's sort of, they just need another project to sort of get everything together. And I'm really hoping that's what the next version of Android is.
But I do think it is.
If they're able to execute quickly, yeah.
But it is telling, right? It is telling that they are not, that version of Android is never shown to anybody. I mean, they don't.
Right.
Who sees it? I mean, even in a Motorola device, which is now at Jelly Bean 4.1, like at my Droid Razr Max HD 7.
Cool dignity.
Yeah. Cool lack of dignity. But like even that has. They altered icons. They altered the dialer. There's pieces of it that have been altered, and it just isn't that. I mean, I don't know if you discussed this with him, but that must be. I can't believe that Matthias Duarte or any designer is satisfied when you say, "Hey, great new design, beautiful stuff. We're going to take this and just totally revamp it and change it." Like I don't believe,
and we're going to call it TouchWiz.
Yeah, and I don't believe that the kind of like this company line where they are like, we love that it's Hollow's just the physics of our world. We don't really want it to look good.
Right.
Like, I don't believe that.
But didn't Larry Page get a little aggressive in that interview he gave to Wired like a week or two ago? We hit this where he said Facebook doesn't make good products. Like, they don't make good mobile product. He's kind of, highlighting what they're doing and also calling out the competition. So
right, but Facebook's not the competition in an operating system.
Right.
I mean, in the sense that they have to be able. This thing has to live on 1,000 different phones.
But in the sense that they both want to be the apps on the home screen of your phone that you use first.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Well, so but
that's definitely true.
Dieter, I think that Google Now is an attempt to not be the app on the home screen of your phone, right? It's an attempt to make Google like be a forceful presence in your life. Right. It's like in your shithole.
Larry Page was screwing.
But the app itself doesn't push into the rest of your phone in the way that the web presence of it does.
I think the goal of Google Now. I mean, I think Google Now will eventually be the home screen of an Android phone. Like you will pick it up and unlock it, and all that widget crap will be an optional thing. But the main thing that you'll see is Google Now.
I mean,
because that
may be a view.
No, I mean I think you'll unlock the phone.
I would
and Google
love
Now
if Google Now were like my lock screen, where I could, I can swipe to the right and get my camera, or swipe to the left and they've got those widgets. I don't care about all that. Like, just don't give me a weather widget over there. Give me my Google Now on my lock screen. That would be amazing. I would be all about that.
It doesn't seem like it would be very hard for them to do that. I mean,
they're just not. Now isn't there. It's just not a finished product.
It's not there yet.
Yeah,
now it's not there yet.
Yeah. Now is next.
Now is coming.
Now we're getting ready.
Now is coming soon.
Soon.
At
now.
the end of the at the end of the earnings call, Larry Page kind of, did you hear that? Where he was like, Google Now is amazing. Like, it's really a focus for us. We're going to this science fiction place. Like, imagine if Google Now was so good that all the questions you finance guys just asked, we would have just answered without you even asking them.
Did he say
that? Would have been great.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah, he said that. That was like the last thing he said on the call.
Yeah, that's the place. That's where Google starts to veer into creep Google, where they're like, what if it knew what you wanted to eat tonight?
What if we were just already feeding you?
Yeah. What if Google Now could hold a spoon to your mouth and shovel in human food? Maybe we'll be able to do that.
So, Dieter, did you get a sense of what's next for this design team? Like, are they going to stay? Are they going to get more centralized? Are they going to stay all distributed? Are they going to keep revamping the products? Is it iterative now?
Yeah, Dieter, we know what's now, but what's next?
I think the next is more of now. I think we're going to see we're going to see more of what Google Now is doing across multiple products. We've already seen it. Like, it's in search. Some of those cards are showing up in search, and there's a different kind of metaphor. Like, those cards are when Google gives you the information instead of a link out. So we're going to see more of that. And I think in terms of like their process and how they're doing design, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they finally got something that's working, and it's this nice middle ground between the way Apple works and the way Google used to work, which was, utter madness and
Yeah.
everybody doing whatever they felt like. And so like they've got something that like works for the company, and I don't see why they would change it until things start breaking again and start looking bad again.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the competition does, in the sense that we know what Windows Phone is doing. They have a pretty strict set of guidelines.
Beautiful handcuffs, man.
Yeah.
I told you.
I'll be honest with
I
you.
told you from the
I-
beginning that was going to be beautiful handcuffs.
Can
for
you
them.
even think of a single Metro app where you're like a third-party app where you're like, yeah, this really knocks it out of the park using Metro design?
No, because the goal of Metro, and this is a fair goal for Microsoft. The ultimate goal of Metro is to make every app look and feel like an integrated part of the system.
Right,
which is
fine.
great.
But,
I think
but
that's,
do any of them
perfect
pull
goal.
it off in a way that you're like,
I
this
don't
feels
think
like a perfect integrated
Because
part of the system?
there's the incentive for an app developer is to not do that.
Right.
Is to stand way out.
You mean to
from the system.
differentiate?
Yeah.
Like Android phone makers.
I mean, there's just I don't know how you convince even the Skype.
But I
app,
wouldn't,
which
I
is
wouldn't mind.
Microsoft.
What I worry is that Metro, in some fundamental ways, is like not a 100%. It's not.
If the world was a perfect place, Metro would be awesome, right?
But I think there are Metro. But okay. But so I was going to say, like, we kind of know where Metro is. Not to get on. I don't want to get on a Metro rant.
Oh, God.
You know where iOS is, and I think the conventional wisdom is it's due for a refresh of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're not going to do it because OS 10 has been looking pretty much like OS 10.
I think if you're at
for-
Apple today and you're looking at the Apple Mail client, and then you go look at Gmail, I think you're thinking to yourself, "Wow, we just got shown up on our own platform."
I don't know about that. I think people
Because I open
I
Mail-
think people at Apple look at Mail, and I know a lot of people who are Apple, major Apple fans and like love
Yeah.
what Apple does, and they think Mail is a really effective tool.
No,
They
it
think
might
it's
be an
great.
effective tool, but I'm saying, actually, Gruber wrote this.
Gruber, we talked about Mail.
Yeah.
He uses Mail.
He's-
He doesn't touch Gmail. He doesn't even know what it does. And he doesn't want to know.
He said this thing which I think is interesting across the industry, because we're starting to see this like 5-inch 1080p display,
Mm-hmm.
which is insanely high resolution, just hit the entire industry. He's like,
Thanks, Sharp.
and he's like,
Is it Sharp?
I don't know who makes it, but
The
it's
display.
It's great. It's beautiful. It's on.
No,
it was
I
on
mean-
the Sony phone.
I mean, who makes it?
I think it's LG, and I think probably Sharp
Oh,
makes
okay,
it too.
yeah. What was that face for? He
You
just made it
you just
crazy.
grilled him. You
Yeah.
locked
Me?
him up. You were like, "Who makes it?"
Well, I expect Nilay knows this stuff. He's like
Gadget
into,
nerd.
he's
So if you
into-
guys don't know this, when we hired Ben, and I just want to point this out, Ben showed up and it was like, "I'm never covering gadgets."
Never.
But I'm gonna
did
do.
you
There's
say
all
that?
these
I
other
don't
interesting
remember you
stories.
saying that.
But actually, I came around to this because there's so much cool stuff in hardware. When we were just having that talk about Google and their design, and then you guys started talking about phones, and I like tuned out or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how dope it would be to have the Google Glass on. And to be like, okay, like you change the themes in your Gmail, you'd be like, you change the theme.
To
and
the
so
world
you'd be like cartoony
of
or
your
like
reality.
Chrome.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
be like a layer
It'd be like
on
Google
whatever I'm looking
Hangouts
at.
projected on top of the
The
people
problem
you're
is that
talking to.
that would come from Verizon.
Totally doable.
Everything would have.
I would do like a
Verizon
fresh
on it.
skin on the world every day. I could do like a
No,
different
that's
skin.
totally doable too.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just saying
awesome.
the problem is that
Would
would be
it be
provided
awesome?
by Verizon, and you would look at a store and it would be
Right.
like the VZ zone.
But it's like you're getting caught in this dystopian thing about the carriers and the OEMs, and that is
my
why
life.
we live in an
Yeah,
imperfect world.
That's where I live
Right.
in my head.
Go where Ben lives.
Let me
I
just
like
finish
that.
Yeah, you gotta
this
live.
one thought.
Pods
So,
vibes.
no, John Gruber, his whole theory is Apple's stuff was designed for lower resolution displays.
Yeah, I heard.
And
this theory.
they did all this cruft to hide how bad the displays look, and now they look bad on high resolution displays because they're not actually. It's not actually fine wood paneling, right? It's a cartoon, and now it looks more like a cartoon.
Or there's
Right.
just one toke over the line when it comes to like a certain type of design. Like they didn't start with stitched leather. They didn't start with ripped pages. They actually started with like stuff that still felt somewhat digital. I mean, if you look
Right.
at the original, if you look at like the clock, the alarm selector on the iPhone, and I think it's actually unchanged. Let me just punch this up here on my iPhone that I happen to have sitting here. And punch up is a thing that people do, by the way. That's an official. It's an official type of terminology. So if I want to set an alarm here, let's do this. So this thing here, this is not really like a real world item. I don't know what that is. It's representative of something like a real world item, but have you ever used anything like this in the real world?
You should show the people.
Okay, well, it's
That's like a very old school analog
it's
clock.
this.
Dial,
Might
right?
look like
it's
that.
it's a dial, but no one in this generation and even in the previous uses anything like this. It's almost
Right.
an industrial kind of reference.
Put
to
your
a-
punch card in and like flip
Yeah,
the
it's-
number.
it's-
I use it when
so-
I unlock a crappy bike lock. The
Right,
little-
something like that. But so like, and this actually doesn't look like an object in the real world to me. It looks like a weird digital dial that has some familiarity to real world items. Like,
But I think you're making a really good point. Like, it was designed for crappier screens, and now these better screens are coming, and suddenly you realize, oh, it doesn't look good. It's like that uncanny valley thing, right? Where it's like when you couldn't really see it that well, it looked great and like kind of had its own vibe. And then when the picture got a little too clear, you were like, oh, this is terrible.
well, that's true for some things, but I do think that right at the start, I mean, from day one, with anything that went beyond some of their stuff was like once they got into the linen and once they got into the stitched leather and they started like really going hard on real world materials. My point about this clock is that it doesn't look like it looks like a thing that has a relationship or is familiar to me in a real world sense, but is not a representation of an actual real world thing. And so, or one that I'm very familiar with or most people be familiar with. And so it feels clever and useful.
Right.
And I think that they went away from that cleverness into the zone of it's gonna be a knob.
Right.
And then somebody was like, we're gonna do it, it's gonna be like a knob. And they're like, oh, you mean so it'll kind of look like a knob?
Right.
And they're like, no. It's going to be a knob.
Right. Yeah.
And when you turn the phone, it'll be like there's brushed metal on the knob,
That's
and
cool.
you'll see.
I like that.
It is a cool detail, but like that's the thinking is we want it to be like a real thing.
Better to like invent your own design world than to like try and make this photocopy of the real world.
Right. Because I think that the real world has great cues for design.
Right.
Obviously, or else nothing would exist.
Right.
But
Deep.
a cue, but a cue for design versus a just absolute copy, it's very different. Anyhow, we should move on because we have other stuff to talk about. Dieter, thank you for joining us. And thank you and Ellis for producing such a wonderful, awesome piece. And I do want to say, like, Ben was involved at intervals. Thomas Houston from Features had a huge hand in it.
Our video
James
team.
Che, our video team. James, who did the design, our video team. Everybody, and I'm not sure everybody who did the video part, but was it Billy and Jordan?
Billy and Jordan.
I don't know.
Rondo.
We have Billy and Jordan, and obviously
and
we have
editors
and
Sam and Rondo.
Collaborative effort.
Rondo and anyhow, but it's like many things that we do at The Verge was a big team collaborative effort, and I think like it is so amazing to see it come together like this. And you look at that piece and you just go, we had a cool story. We told it in a cool way. It looks really beautiful. It's really readable. It's got this great video thing. And so I'm just psyched. I get excited. I mean, I don't see these all the way through. Like it's like the idea's here and then they end up on the site. And I'm like, wow, this is exciting.
Dieter, before you go, there was a poll on the web yesterday about who is the best looking Verge writer. And
you're way
the Bohn
ahead.
Zone was way out ahead.
Like
it wasn't
way-
even close.
What about Alice?
Look at him. He's
It wasn't
turning,
even
Look,
close.
he's blushing.
He's turning tomato.
Wait, where was this?
Somebody just threw up a poll. I saw it on Twitter. I clicked through. It was like 6 of us. I was not even on it.
Was
So it
I
wasn't
on
really
it?
fair.
Was
You
I
were
on it?
You were on.
I'm like real low,
I think you were
right?
second, and then the Bohn Zone was like over 50%.
People think I'm really ugly. I know that. I've seen a lot of like mean tweets about how ugly I am.
Mean tweets.
I get it, guys. I'm not very handsome, but you know what? But Dieter is handsome. Although we saw a picture today, we said Dieter. This is really funny. Dieter, we had took team photos when we had our all hands back in September. You guys don't care about that, but we have a bunch of
really terrible team photos.
No,
No,
they're
yours is
great. They're
amazing.
great. But you and Thomas Ricker are like before and after. You're like you're like young Thomas Ricker before the drugs and alcohol caught up with him. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, Thomas looks like a badass.
He does.
But he looks like a badass who's seen some shit.
He's late period. Dieter Bohn.
Late period bone.
LatePeriodBone.com. Check it out, everybody. All right, Dieter, thank you so much.
If I look like Thomas Ricker, I'll be a happy man.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? We'd all be happy. All right, thanks, man. And keep on rocking in the free world.
You're done.
Why?
Segue.
Too many words.
Super
All
segue.
right. Okay,
Hey,
great. What else we have?
Before we go on, control room. I am being told that our live stream is skipping like crazy. They know? Okay, you go.
What is that casual head nod in there? Like
They
it's
know,
no
they're
big
like,
deal.
we know.
Hey.
There's. Oh.
Oh,
I
well,
see.
time for more
Shut down the
bandwidth.
uploads.
Good thing in our new office we're getting a big, fat, nasty fiber pipe all
sorry,
over
SB
everything.
Nation fans.
Yeah. Sorry if you wanted any sports video or news
No,
right
they had
now.
that great 49ers video.
I know.
You're gonna have
Did you
to
see the
wait.
headline on that? Zing.
Really good. Who worked on that?
Somebody worked that headline over.
Almost like somebody you should give that guy an award.
I'm actually pretty psyched because I love MMA and they do the MMA hour in here with
you're
Ariel
like a-
Helwani. So I feel like I'm sitting
yeah.
in like, close to
Did you watch the one that he did with the dude who like lost
Jason
it?
Mayhem Miller?
Yeah.
Oh, I know all about it.
What was up with that?
That guy is, he's like
He's unstable.
like professional wrestling, where you play this character of like the heel.
Yeah.
But he's also like he took it a little too far, like an Andy Kaufman or something. Like he kind of lost
But that's
it.
cool.
Yeah.
You're into MMA. You actually are a professional jiu-jitsu fighter.
That's right. My gym is like 4 blocks from him. So
Have you ever
excited.
considered doing MMA, like getting into some?
I think there's a lot of brain damage in MMA, so I stick to jiu-jitsu.
Based on that interview I saw.
Based on the interview.
I'm sure your wife would not be very pleased.
No.
Do you fight? You don't do like.
I do very, very sort of grappling. Like I do grappling, no punching and kicking
A
with
lot
the
of holding.
head.
A lot of holding.
Yeah.
It's pretty homoerotic. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's like hugging.
Who is the MMA?
Violent hugging.
Sometimes I grab a single leg, I run the pipe, and I go to a rear naked choke. So
Who hasn't done? I did that last night twice. Who was the fighter? There was a fighter who was a UFC fighter who was like the hold guy who was really popular in like the early 2000s. He won like constantly. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So there's these guys
He's like from
Brazil,
a family,
the Gracie family.
The Gracie
So
family.
I train with them 4 blocks away.
Shut up, really?
Enzo Gracie, cousin of Hickson Gracie and Hodger Gracie, and
You train with
they
the
all
Gracies?
have an R in their name and they all pronounce it like an H.
That's a
So it's
Brazilian
like,
thing.
Yeah.
But you train with the Gracies?
Yeah, so they have like one of the biggest academies. It's not like me and like the ultimate badass dude.
Right.
He owns the academy and I am a
Okay.
student there.
Okay.
One of many.
You know that
hundreds.
you're learning the Gracie technique.
Yes, I am learning the Gracie family technique.
Is that a situation where like in a somebody's mugging you?
Self-defense.
Is this a self-defense thing?
Excellent for self-defense.
Really?
They teach it to the
So
Army
they have
Rangers.
a guy has a knife.
Yes.
Who has? By the way, who mugs with a knife?
Nobody.
Nobody.
A taser these days.
Guy has a gun.
A taser.
If a guy's a gun, I will give him my money.
you're like, listen, I could hand to hand.
Right.
This could be a thing.
They
but-
teach you that. Like once you got like a little bit of confidence, you're a white belt with a couple stripes. They're like, listen, in a self-defense situation with a gun, don't try any of the things we taught you in here. Give the guy your money.
Even if you're successful, like the gun might just go off anyhow.
Don't let it go to your head that you're good in this class.
What is your belt?
I have a blue belt.
And how close is that to black?
It's white, blue, purple, brown, black.
So you got a ways to go.
At least 10 years.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Really?
I got
Okay.
a ways to go.
That's a long time. Now that we've discussed all of your physical fitness, what else is on our topics list here?
Well, Ben's piece, man.
We can talk about my piece.
Yeah, Ben did a crazy. So after the election, there was a lot of
hot politically charged piece.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of talk about how the Obama campaign had this like technical operation, this app, this like
What was it called?
Get
It
out the
was
vote,
their
narwhal.
Narwhal.
And then Romney, had
Which is a mythical like whale
It's
with
like a seal
horn.
with a unicorn horn.
Seal with a unicorn. Yeah.
And
There's the
then-
great episode of Futurama that's centered around.
And then
the narwhal.
Romney had,
and then Romney had one that sucked called Orca,
that's supposed to eat a narwhal.
Yeah.
But it crashed.
but it
And he
didn't
lost
work.
the
It
election.
hit an iceberg.
Well, I don't think he lost. I think he lost a significant amount of votes
Right. In the swing states.
in the swing states.
Well, he lost. It's like, but it wasn't that somehow like an algorithm failed and those votes magically
it's-
disappeared. It was that that things failed that were supposed to tell them
Right. But-
what to do.
People
Yeah.
out there are supposed to turn out their vote. They try to open the Romney app and it just crashes. And they're like,
Right.
I can't, I don't know which doors to go knock on.
Oh
Right.
boy. Oh boy.
Anyway, but that's that part of the story. So Ben, you want to walk us through what's happening now with the
flip
Obama
side
stuff?
of Narwhal. Let's
So the postmortem of the election was, the Democrats had a big tech advantage, and they sent guys out to Silicon Valley and recruited them from Google and Facebook and Twitter. They took sabbaticals and went to work on the campaign. But I actually got a call just sort of over the transom from some of the developers from the campaign, which is now ended. And when campaigns end, it's kind of this weird, the entity continues, but the campaign is over. It's kind of weird. So this guy's still
Probably
technically
depressing, too.
part of the campaign. Yeah, they tear it all down.
Yeah.
And they were basically wanted to voice their anger and their frustration that the code, all the architecture that they wrote for the software, the email, the mobile app, the website, the donate, was going to be, in their opinion, mothballed at the DNC and not used and not shared with other democratic progressive organizations. So there's two problems with that. One is that they built off of open source software, and so there's this ethical, philosophical thing that developers have. We should share it back with the public.
Right.
And the other half is,
But then Orca can get it.
Right. So so it's funny. During the campaign, these guys were saying, they used to scrape our sites, they would look at our tech and steal it. And there was actually a point where the Romney donate page did a find and replace, and they forgot to change enough of the text, and they got caught during the campaign. It was like Romney donates tech is exactly the same, and even the text on the page is the same as the Obama one.
Except for Obama is replaced by Romney.
Right.
Yeah. Same graphics,
Same everything.
HTML stuff. Yeah. Okay. That's
so
great.
they were already doing that,
Right.
And I think the idea is if we don't respect open source principles, we're not going to have this same advantage recruiting tech folks next time around. And then there's the idea of byte rot. And me and Neil, I talked about this, but a campaign is like you spin it up and you spin it down, and the time in between, you don't think about it. But
Right.
if you have software and you don't touch it for 4 years, all the APIs are going to be broken. It's going to be out of date. It's worthless.
It
You
needs
can't
to be
just
maintained.
Right. You have to
Right.
keep working on it, improving it.
And because the guys who run these campaigns, they literally do think of spinning it up, which is classically it's we're going to print out a bunch of forms,
Right.
put them on clipboards, hire a bunch of like phone lines, and then have volunteers sit there with the clipboards calling the phones.
Shred the stuff we didn't use when we're
Right.
done.
Right, and then 4 years from now we can just print out the forms again, hire a bunch of phone lines, and
Right.
we're back up.
I mean, it's a new age, and it's definitely, you can't. I love the concept of byte rot and the idea that like it doesn't go to sleep now the way that it would have gone to sleep.
Right.
Yeah,
But don't they start spinning up? Aren't they right now planning 2016? I mean, I find it hard to believe that there's not a group of people sitting in a room right now working on algorithms for
Right.
what 2016 is going to look
Right.
like.
So, but if it went to the DNC, I talked to a couple people, they have less tech staff than they did in 2009. They're not really equipped, like the campaign
how's that
was.
work?
They laid off some people who worked on the tech side. They didn't keep that
after the
side staffed
election?
up. Yeah,
Right.
the DNC, which is separate from the campaign.
Right.
The DNC would be the
Right.
organization that goes on during those 4 years and decides what might happen to the
Right.
tech and stuff.
Right.
So, they definitely don't have the level
the
of
DNC is
talent.
the CEA of the
Yeah.
right.
Well, no,
That's
I mean-
basically right. What is their job? Like they're kind of getting ready to plan the next
Right, exactly.
convention.
well, no,
Right.
right.
Basically.
They're doing that, and they're also like, they're in charge of like primaries and stuff like that.
Right, but they have no actual power in terms of political power, right? I mean, the DNC is a kind of a organizational.
It's like an administrative.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
an administrative. It's like we need to get all the Democrats like a memo.
I mean,
the DNC will do that.
So to me, what this is running into is politics. I think was valid. We talked about it a lot on this podcast. Like the use of technology, like dramatically shaped politics in this cycle. It was validated by the fact Obama won.
Yeah.
and his technology was good.
This was
but
like yeah.
there's no. This isn't like Twitter where there's a company and a product. Like they're done. Like those people have accomplished their
Well,
goal.
I think we know what the answer is. I mean,
that?
they need to start thinking of part of their business as making really good software.
Right. So they made a good suggestion. Somebody made a good suggestion, which was they could license this stuff out. They could be like, listen, we have the best tech. We won the presidential election. You can license this from us for your local campaigns and whatever.
Yeah.
And that will be the way to keep it self-sustaining. We'll employ
Right.
a couple people and
Right.
license this stuff out.
But nobody wants to do that.
Which is, there's
Well,
this
'cause
company, Blue State
you
Digital.
automatically cut your market in half, right? Because they're not going to want to license it to the Republicans.
Right, that's true. But there's this company, Blue State Digital. Those were actually the tech guys who worked on the Howard Dean campaign, and then they went private, and they helped work on the first Obama campaign. So the model has been, if you work on the campaign, then afterwards you take that tech and you make it into a startup. You make a business out of it.
Right. What businesses do you think they could make out of this technology? Let's ideate here for a moment.
Well, actually, it's funny because they were saying, you could use this for anything. Like this donate button could be used for, raising money by anybody. It doesn't have to be a political campaign. It's just great web architecture. They were saying we were some of the first guys to really work on responsive design, like Polygon has. They said we were doing that, really advanced stuff with that before anyone. So we'd love to share that.
Maybe we should talk to some of these guys.
We should get a donate button.
Bring them into Vox.
Yeah.
And a donate button.
Right.
I've had people say, hey, I'll pay X amount of dollars if I don't have to see ads. I feel like there would not be enough people for that to be like make any sense for us.
No.
It would be sweet if you could give somebody a cookie and they could pay and not have ads, just like that. Just
Give
whatever.
somebody a cookie. Oh,
A
not
web
an actual cookie. Yeah. You had like, what's that exchange? Like, here's an oatmeal raisin. But the donate button. That's an interesting one. That doesn't strike me as the one that's the most valuable piece.
They did a lot of great stuff.
Donate buttons are not the most valuable piece of what they did. What they did, the most valuable piece of what they did is they came up with ways to analyze voter data.
Right.
And tell people how to act based on the voter data.
That stuff's a little. I didn't get into it, the voter rolls, but they actually created this organization that has the right to lease and license that stuff out. So it's very obviously prickly because it's a lot of private information.
To the Republicans? To a Republican?
To anyone who, I don't think they would release it to the Republicans. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but they created an organization after the campaign to basically say this is a gold mine of data we've got.
Yeah,
Do you
I
want
think
a piece of
if you are a coder, like Republicans got to be recruiting hard now, right, for software guys. I mean, if they were smart, they must know. They must know they failed out on that stuff. So if I were the RNC, I'd be like, we need to get a team together.
Right.
But it's tough. You know, Nate Silver did a piece on this. Like, what are the demographics of the places where coders live, San Francisco and New York, whatever. And the politicians
I
definitely.
wonder how does this break out?
Right.
How does it break down?
So the politicians can't hope to match the pay of the private sector, like a Twitter, a Facebook, a Google. So basically, the people have to do it because they believe in your campaign.
But a Romney could.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, Romney could tenfold.
Yeah.
And he's a multimillionaire.
Right.
Let's talk about Vine. Oh, I was going to make a Vine on the
right.
Vergecast.
The world changed
hold
this
on.
morning.
So Vine, everything changed again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
There has been this, race battle. People knew this was coming. A competition to create the Instagram for video.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And today,
and there was some maybe sense that Cinemagram had started to get a little bit of traction.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling was suddenly I was starting to see them pop up, but Twitter has. This is broken. This is a broken arm. But Twitter has now put the kibosh on their forward motion.
Right.
By creating Vine.
Right.
Which is a standalone app that lets you create 6-second videos, which you can stop and start at intervals.
Right.
There's no editing.
God.
sort of.
This is the most
There's
frenetic
some
and
interesting
crappy video.
differences. So, like,
Here's
Cinemagram.
some video of it.
Cinemagram is GIFs, right? It's just that format, silent.
Right.
And you can play them forwards and backwards. And
Silent, they look like GIFs.
and I love it. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff. And there's cool, like, people doing backflips and cool sports highlights. And also,
You can loop them. So
there's
you
all
can
this, like, teenagers doing silent comedy, like teenagers doing, like, Charlie Chaplin routines, which is amazing. So the difference, obviously, with Vine is that there's sound, which totally changes everything. And the way the app is set up, it's kind of like you're supposed to shoot a montage. Nilay will show you his. He just shot one.
And it's also, in a way, this is like very Snapchatty. I feel because Snapchat. I get a lot of Snapchats from like my brother is in Florida visiting my parents, and he's been sending me
Right.
Snapchat videos of like 5-second clips of them hanging out,
Right.
or whatever. But this has sound.
Yeah. So it's this HTML5 format, which I think is interesting. It comes as a feed. Like that was the thing I didn't think would work, is like a feed with sound, because it would be too confusing. But it's neat. Like you scroll down to it and it sort of unlocks, it unpauses and starts from the beginning and plays with sound. And only the sound from one at a time plays. So
I
like,
gotta download it. Can I use
could
my
see
Twitter
how you
credentials
would-
to get into this? Right?
Yeah, Avi.
Avi.
It comes as a Twitter card. It goes
Oh, look
right
at
into
that
the
right
Twitter
there
cards.
on the front page.
Yeah.
Vine.
But they do integrate with Facebook. You can find your Facebook friends and share to Facebook.
Do they have an Android app?
No,
iOS only. That is so old.
it's iOS and BB10.
All right. I uploaded my Vine, guys.
Seriously?
No.
I was gonna say, like,
John, can you find my Vine?
That is so old of them. They need to launch.
Can we
with
get some
both.
Meta Vine?
Yeah.
They need to launch with both. I think that's really unfair to the Android users, the people who've supported them.
But I think it's cool, the idea that, like right now, if you were to do a video live of something and try and upload it and share it quickly, it would be hard. But now you could take a moving image easily with sound and share it, pretty frictionlessly, the way
Yeah.
Instagram made photos, just everybody.
Yeah, I think this
That's a
is
good idea. It's cool.
Yeah, this is good. I think this is a big deal for video. Except, it is funny that it operates very much in the way that Twitter operates, where you've got this huge limitation, and that obviously is meant to be
Right.
Somehow that's going
6
to
seconds, you mean.
But I think that's a good
Wasn't there
limitation.
another service that did little, like 30-second?
There's been a lot, right?
What was the web? There was a web service.
I don't know. Somebody sent us Cube. Have you ever heard of a Cube? Oh my God.
No, what's that?
It's like this horrible Flash version of this, where it's like you could record a 3
Yeah,
or
I
4
think
second
part
video.
of the action here is that like this is HTML5.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's built in a
I just created my account.
good.
I'm gonna do a Vine.
Shoot one right now.
I'm gonna shoot one
Can I
right
Vine
now.
you vining?
This has got to be some of the worst of all Vergecasts.
This is
Oh,
a
yeah.
meta Vine.
All right, hold on. Let's see here. I don't want to
Vine,
see
you
these
guys,
people
Vine.
in my feed.
This sucks.
How do I get these people out of my feed?
Oh god, it's just doing whatever it wants. Vine, you crazy.
Can it just put my Twitter friends onto here automatically?
You should stop doing that.
This is already way too much work.
I've already made a Vine, man.
I'm vining you guys.
I did tweet my Vine.
Okay, hold on.
Vine has been tweeted,
It just froze.
twatted.
It froze.
You
broken.
don't understand how it works. You have to hold it. You go like this. You hold
It's
it.
frozen.
The longer you hold it, it goes. So it's like you're holding it. It's taking recording. Then you stop.
It's not. I don't see
Then
anything
you
though. It's
hold it. It's
frozen.
taking recording.
It's
and
frozen.
Stop.
Keep holding, dude.
It's just frozen though.
No, just
Oh
keep
no,
holding.
yours is just frozen.
It's broken. I've actually crashed. Here's what's going on with my Vine. Can we get a close up of that? Get onto my single shot. This is just frozen on a blurry shot of.
When Topolsky speaks, people listen. So this
Wow.
app is now dead in
Well,
the
that
water.
sucked. That was not
End,
cool.
End of that app.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to try this again.
They had a little momentum.
Do I still
Oh, there
not
we
have
go.
a Vine?
Okay, I'm Vining.
I just
Hold
vined.
on.
See?
We're all
I'm
Vine.
Vining.
It
Everyone's-
hasn't loaded yet.
Everyone
I'm
Vine all
gonna
the time.
Do a shot
No,
of
I have to
this.
say, like I
of
I will
those
say
guys
this:
over
I
there.
generally hate apps.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I'm
You're not an app guy.
I just all these anyway. But I think
Right.
this is great.
Yeah.
Like this is I don't actually use Instagram.
The potential for sending, moving images that are sexts is just mind-boggling. The potential to do harm to yourself and others
Is there
with this
dong
is
recognition?
mind-boggling.
Okay.
Is there? Yeah, I think the penis detection software on this is like a little bit better than chat roulette. But
What
a
is
little bit
what is
worse
it when
than,
I'm tweeting?
So there is dong recognition.
when I'm is it vining?
Is that just like is that like on GitHub? Like you can like download the library?
Yeah.
Am I? Hold on. I gotta know. Is this? Am I vining?
You're vining.
Yeah, you're
Is that
vining right now.
VINING?
You're vining down.
Yeah,
Because it looks like vinning.
No, VIN.
like Charlie Sheen. Vinning.
Is that
It's like a
That's
really
vining?
No,
a
no,
really
with
old
an E,
Jewish
with an
guy
E.
saying winning.
what? That's incorrect.
I'm vinning. I'm allowed to say that.
This is stupid.
Well, sorry, man.
I think VINING.
It's
No,
terrible.
No way.
VINNING.
No, it just looks wrong. It
Just go with Vine time.
No, I'm not doing that. Share on Twitter. Yes, share on Vine, share on Twitter. Vining from, guys, isn't this the best Vergecast stuff you've ever heard in your entire life?
Vining and dining.
Oh,
Pushing and dishing.
Wow. You know,
Oh, I'm
Ben
bringing
is
it.
fired.
I'm bringing it.
First of all, I just
bringing
want
it.
everybody to know that I have now fired Ben on the air. Goodbye, Ben.
Bye.
he deserved, let's be honest, he had it come in.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. Done. Vining from the Vergecast. It's on.
Oh, there it is.
What?
Stash is looking.
That's
they,
your
they,
Vine.
they threw up the Vine.
Can you, hey guys, I just tweeted mine. You can see my Vine.
They're all
This is going to be completely bonkers when people start using this. All right, come on.
So I was talking to a guy today, though, at Spreecast, and he said something interesting, which is like, you remember during Occupy Wall Street, people would be out these little backpacks and they'd be shooting live video?
Yeah.
And like pretty soon he was saying, we're going to be able to do that two-way. So like I'm at an event and I'm like talking to you and looking into my phone, and I'm just doing that with just a phone as if I was like a CNN truck with a van and
Yeah.
a satellite. Like that's going to be coming pretty soon. And it's pretty sweet. I
Yeah.
think. You know what I mean?
You mean like real-time interviews?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, a
But
FaceTime.
only 6 seconds.
No, like a real-time interview. Yeah, like just keep it on 4G, just run it, and that would enable anybody to do really interesting stuff.
Citizen journalism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reporting.
Yes.
I reports.
I report. I report. You decide.
All right. So Vine is, we're going to see, it's a new thing. We're going to check it out.
It's gonna be good.
I just want to find my friends. I just,
No, you know it's funny because didn't Color try to do this? Wasn't this their last pivot?
yes,
And they just like failed out.
Yes.
So why will this succeed?
but they sold to Apple, so they're technically a success.
Whatever world you live in has completely skewed ideas about what success is.
Speaking of completely skewed ideas,
Yeah.
Apple
Oh God.
just had a
wow.
record.
Wow.
day.
What a segue. Hold on. I'm
Segue.
sorry.
Super pro
I'm
segue
adding,
from
I'm
the
adding my
pods.
friends here, and I don't see.
You gotta stop using Vine. on
No,
here.
I'm into Vine.
Let's talk about Apple.
So
I'm
we're
not
talking
gonna-
about
I'm not gonna
bizarro
add this
worlds,
person from the
right?
Huffington Post.
Inverse bizarro worlds.
Yes.
Apple just had its record day of record days. They had more records on this day of records
Yeah.
than any day before.
And
More
we
iPhones
actually
sold.
counted. Ross Miller sent me an email. He was counting because he's at Sundance.
More iPhones, more iPads, more
They used the
revenue,
word. They used the word record more times than in any other earnings release.
more profit.
Yeah, Ross had some sort of fever.
best-
He woke up from a fever
Yeah.
dream and
Right.
started charting.
Look, it's
how many times.
Let me just say, it's snowing in at Sundance.
Right.
For Ross.
Apple
All
had
the
a
time.
record
do
of
they know?
records.
Do they know it's Christmas?
And so, of course, after a day of records, your stock goes down 10%.
Yeah.
No,
Right?
I mean, it's
13%.
way down. It's I bet it's 13 now.
I mean, there are reasons this happened.
Yes.
There are actual financial explanations.
12.35%.
To a layperson,
Right at the
like,
start.
Seems like bizarro
myself, it's like they made more money than ever. They sold more stuff than ever.
Right.
They missed expectations by like narrow margins,
Right.
like a rounding error.
Right.
Right.
We predicted 54 billion. It was 53 billion. Their stock went down 13% today.
It's crazy. I mean,
Do you understand this?
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. I don't think that I agree with it, but I understand the logic, which is that
Explain it to us.
their growth is slowing down. So they had a record, but the amount that their revenue grew slowed from the way it used to be growing, leaps and bounds.
And what does that indicate?
So you're moving from being a growth company, which is growing leaps and bounds, to being a mature company, which is, in this case, just printing money. But what the stock traders are interested in is, what's your momentum? Are you getting better every quarter than you were the quarter before?
Right.
You know, what's your market? If you've already sold an iPhone to everybody in North America, how are you going to get 10 times as big?
And they're saying, hey, we're going to make a cheaper iPhone.
Yeah.
But that's
Hey,
people looking at
hey,
people
we
are
made a
looking at
cheaper
developing.
iPad.
You're looking at developing nations, and we know that when it comes to investors,
Right.
they don't look at RIM, who's selling phones to developing nations, and
Right.
go, great strategy for growth.
Because they love Apple's high margins.
Because they high margins, right?
Right.
Because it's their luxury goods, basically.
Right.
They were selling luxury goods at a pace that at no other luxury goods maker could touch.
They became the number one
on
company
the
in the
call
world.
yesterday. So after they released the earnings, they have a call with Tim Cook and Peter Oppenheimer, who's the CFO, and the call was really strange because what they were really talking about on the call was not, it was a very boring. Like last quarter, like Cook went on a rampage and called Surface a bad product, and we're never going to make a 7-inch tablet. We think the iPad Mini is all this stuff. This quarter, he basically said nothing. Gene Munster straight up asked him if they were going to make a TV.
I can tell you this: it's an area of intense interest for them.
Yeah, no, he gave the same.
The living room is an area of
what he
intense
opened
interest.
with, he laughed. He literally, Tim Cook laughed at Gene Munster, as this analyst who's constantly predicting that Apple will make a TV, because his question, Munster's question, really was like, I mean, is it hard? Are you guys trying? I bet it's hard. Is it hard? Is it hard? Tell me if it's hard.
Is that how you say it?
I mean, that's what it sounded. I bet you have content problems. I mean, is it going to be a box or a TV?
Is it trouble to strike deals?
Yeah, it was like
with an industry
and so
that doesn't want to
he
give
ends
you
his
any
question,
money.
and there's just moment where you can hear all the other analysts laughing, and Cook is like, "You're asking questions I'm just not going to answer."
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's true that Apple needs a new narrative, and that could be, we have a TV.
That's the one narrative.
I don't
but
think,
here's the other.
unfortunately, I don't think that's the new narrative for the company.
But then all the other analysts, they were asking whatever their two-part question was, like, how are DRAM prices affecting your supply? And then the second question was, oh, Apple, you've changed your guidance. So the thing that used to happen was Apple would blow away their earnings, and then they would release some fake lowball numbers about what they think they're going to do the next quarter. And then they would blow away that guidance.
Right.
So Wall Street stopped listening to those numbers. They started coming up with whatever other crap they wanted.
they were
to
letting
believe.
Wall Street.
Dictate their guidance.
Right.
So now they're like, we're changing our guidance. Instead of giving you one number, we're going to give you this massive range, and we think we'll hit somewhere in that range.
Right.
And
We're either going to make $1 or $100
yeah, and the range is
billion.
the range is $5 billion.
Right.
It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Right.
And the range is only, I believe, for their revenue, not for their profit, which is
Right.
the more important
Yeah,
part.
Apple
Right.
beat their own guidance yesterday, and when you
They
look
always
at,
beat their own guidance.
They always you always beat
Forever,
your own
like they
guidance.
always
Right.
have. Yep.
And we looked at other companies like Google, which missed its marks and was up 10%. So it's definitely
Netflix.
and Netflix, which made Netflix made the most infinitesimal profit, but was up 40% because it's about narrative. They were saying, look, our subscriber
Right.
growth suddenly is
No.
really turning on.
We
turning a
know,
new
we
page.
know, we know that Wall Street operates in a world of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. I mean, that is true though. But let's be clear, right? I mean, just when you get right down to trading,
Right.
it is not. People are not trading. Sometimes they're using data that is real. A lot of the time, they're using a vibe.
Yeah.
Right, they're saying this doesn't feel right, or
Right.
the data is telling them that it's giving them some bad vibes, and then it's a domino effect.
Right.
Once somebody has a bad vibe, once somebody big enough, or enough people have a bad vibe, then it's like a domino effect.
Yeah,
but it is true that Apple is. I mean, you don't know, you don't have a sense of expectation right now.
Right.
I think you have a sense of the TV's been rumored forever. Their Wall Street Journal has reported repeatedly that they've had content issues. There were some stories.
But here are just some numbers. And
Lay it on
MG
us.
Sigler tweeted this, and I was looking at it.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. But
because it's his job to defend Apple.
yes.
Carry the water.
Fair enough.
It's right.
Microsoft's revenues last quarter were $21.46 billion. The revenues for the iPhone this quarter, $30.66 billion.
Right.
Not counting the iPad, not counting the Mac.
But he's missing the
that
picture.
stuff
Not
is,
counting
that stuff is
iTunes.
not connected.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying the iPhone business for Apple is bigger than Microsoft's
Right.
business.
And
No,
it's,
but
it's
yeah,
staggering. It's staggering. And they got that.
It is incredible.
They got that premium. So the thing you're saying, Josh, about like it being, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, if you're trading on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, month-to-month, it is going to swing wildly like this. If you're long-term, it's more about the fundamentals of Apple, right? Like if you bought the stock 2 years ago, you made a ton of money because the company has had an incredible run.
Wow. You made a lot more money 6 months ago, 5 months ago.
Right. If you got off at the top. But, I think it's interesting what you were saying, like what are we going to see next? Like what has been sort of the stuff that they've released, since Tim Cook came on? We wrote about this, like, a slightly bigger iPhone, a slightly smaller iPad. People want to see something different. And
design that we are now talking about all the time. Like, hey, what's up with this?
Right.
Stuff?
It's
like they've had software flops.
It's behind.
Senior execs leave.
Oh, they've had a ton of senior. They've had an enormous amount of upheaval in the senior team. Scott Forstall. They had the stuff with who's
Mansfield.
Bob Mansfield,
and then,
where he came in, and then he was out, and then he was back in.
And then Brow leading the retail.
Right. He's gone.
Right.
They just got rid of some other, didn't get rid of, but he quit an SVP in retail.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it's like regardless of all of that, right? The company's like cruising along.
No, they're
doing exactly what they always do.
I think it's insane. Don't get me wrong. Like when people were tweeting yesterday about how they missed the
light on revenues,
right?
Yeah, which is amazing. Highest revenue ever for a company.
They came in a little light.
Business Insider's headline was Apple whiffs. Like, this is whiffing. I want to whiff every day. Every day I want to whiff like Apple whiffs. But but there is, I think, is the momentum question.
If you're Michael Jordan and you don't come up with a new dunk every game, people are like, oh, I've seen this dunk before.
No, or it's that you think like we know what he can do dunk wise, and he's not going to do new dunks.
Right.
Like, and the hype about his hot new dunks.
Right.
Horrible analogy.
We've seen the best of his.
We've
dunks.
seen like all the. I think the impression now, the narrative is, Jobs is gone.
Right.
That's a real thing. Like
Right.
it's clear. Like if you track it from the death of Steve Jobs to now, I would find it hard to believe there's no correlation. Mm-hmm. There is a correlation between the sense that Apple is continuing to climb the mountain,
right,
versus that they're at the top of the mountain.
But
they hit the top.
Tim
of the
Cook,
mountain.
He's the logistics guy who came in, and he can continue to run the business, tremendously well, and they will mint money.
Yeah.
But is he not an innovation guy? Will Joni Ive step up? And Howard Lindzen said this great quote, which I think a lot of people repeated on our site, which is, Apple has never traded on its profits; it's traded on its innovations.
Right.
That's how this sort of the value of the stock is assigned.
Right. And I think that in Silicon Valley and in the tech world in general, you really are only as good as your last product. And I think that their last products were really, you're watching. This is making me hungry.
Super hungry.
I know. But you really are only as good as your last product, and people are very fickle. Consumers are extremely fickle, particularly technology consumers. I mean, I think what we've seen, I've talked about this before, I think probably, but like the browser fickleness is incredible. I remember when I used Internet Explorer and then I switched to Firefox, and then Firefox was lame, and I switched to Safari, and then Safari was lame, and I switched to Chrome, and now I'm on Chrome. And by the way, the next guy who comes out with a better browser, I'm probably going to switch to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, people are very fickle. You really need to you got to work really hard in technology to retain them. Apple I think the thing is Apple, have their days of innovation passed? Mm-hmm. Have their great products ended?
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's going to be, if Johnny Ive, but I will say this, if Johnny Ive and his new bigger role in software, if whatever their next big thing isn't really great, isn't actually like, whoa, this is cool, like people are going to be really into this, if we're not impressed by it, I think that's an issue.
What I think is really interesting,
a warning sign.
That's a big sign.
I think Apple still makes the best hardware in the business, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that I don't think Apple has ever really wanted to be cast as a hardware company. They want to be cast as either the best software makers in the world, or I think what they would really prefer is to be the integrated solutions company, right? And
end to end is the goal.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, I don't think anyone's close to surpassing the way they build hardware.
The scope of their end to end is staggering.
Right.
Like, I think this is the thing to think about. Apple cemented in the world the concept that you needed to control every piece of your business, not just you make great hardware and great software, You want to sell music? Hey, here's all the music. Here's the music consortium. We got this.
Right.
Or here's Universal. We got this. It's Apple's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make the best hardware. We're going to make the best software that goes on it. And then we're also going to come up with the best services and content distribution for that stuff. I mean, they're trying to do services. They're trying to do mail and cloud storage and syncing and stuff like that. They're not really there yet.
Right.
I don't think, they're the biggest seller of music. They sell a lot of video. They would sell more if they had televisions, probably, if they could actually sell people televisions. But the scope of what they're trying to control is insane.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of the problem. It's part of the winning side of Apple. It's also part of the side that's hurting right now, which is like when you control everything and you have a miss, like when one of those links in the chain is a little bit broken or you have a little bit of an issue like Apple Maps,
right.
It can make all the rest of it feel, it stops the whole thing.
I think we were talking before about how Google is like structured very differently. And so we knew that Steve Jobs was the guy making the decisions. If you came in with an iPod and he dropped it in the fish tank and could see air bubbles, it wasn't good enough, right? Like he was like, go back and work on it some more. So now that he's not there, it's like, who's that guy? Tim Cook doesn't seem like that kind of guy, that kind of perfectionist.
I mean, I think Johnny Ive is always seen as the natural successor to him in terms of creativity.
As a product manager.
As the product manager, but now he's got a hand in software, so we'll have to see. But I think there is something to that. Also, Google is known to fail.
Right.
Google has a reputation for failing and making. Jobs has that reputation in some ways, but the bigger reputation is as a success.
Well, but here's the thing, and I think this is Apple's saving grace, right? If they are the maker, and I believe that they continue to make the best hardware and the software they need to revamp thoroughly. But these devices, the iOS devices, they sold 75 million of them in the quarter, right? They sold 4.1 million Macs, down from 5.2 million a year ago.
There has to be a crossover point there.
Well, but this is happening for them. Like Brian Bishop wrote a report on this for this morning, which is, they had problems shipping the iMac and they weren't on sale until the end of the quarter. So the numbers dropped. But Cook was like, if you look at our portable sales, they're tracking IDC, which is like the big numbers. They're tracking the PC market. And that's like the first time they've ever said that. What they usually say is we're outgrowing the PC market. Every one of our computers is selling faster than the PC market. Like the PC market grew at 6%, we grew at 25%.
Right.
Because people want Macs more than PCs, so our market share is exploding.
Right.
Now they're like, we're tracking the PC market.
Right.
While their sales of the mobile devices explode. And so their business is changing dramatically. Whether or not they want to admit it, which I don't think they do.
But they changed it.
Right, and Cook is like, we welcome cannibalization. It's a great opportunity for us.
Right.
But if they are now moving to a point where they're wholly dependent on their end-to-end integration working, because if you buy a Mac and iTunes doesn't work, like you put Spotify on it, you never think about iTunes again.
Yeah.
It never occurs to you that you have to think about iTunes.
Most people aren't doing that though.
Well, yeah, but like,
but beside the point is that people aren't buying the Macs.
Right, but they're not. They're buying these.
They're buying the
And
iPads.
if you buy this and you use Spotify, you run into all kinds of places.
Well, but then Apple gets into one of the most dangerous spots for them, which is one that I tweeted about the other day when they pulled this 500 Pix app for having nudity in it or whatever they found objectionable. Which is this is what people didn't understand what I was saying, and it's worth reiterating. Like, imagine a world where iPads are the dominant computer,
which is the world,
which is where we're headed. Here's the deal: laptops are dying. Like, sales of laptops are dying out. Tablets are on track to replace and then exceed sales of laptops.
Yep.
Apple has the leading market share in tablets by a large margin, from what I understand. I haven't looked at the most recent numbers, but it's probably in the vicinity of 70%, 75, something like that. Not the penetration that Windows has in PCs, but certainly a high penetration. That's growing. Their competition still has not caught up with them in any significant way. So imagine a world in 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, let's say, where everybody uses an Apple product as their main computer, as that's how you get on the internet, that's how you find stuff, that's how you use apps. And Apple is using these, what I consider to be bizarre and somewhat concerning ideas about what is permissible, including but not limited to the mail client you can use, the browser you can use, what you can look at within those apps. It's like the only app that you can look at nudity in is Apple's supported browser. Or like you can look at other browsers, but Apple ships a browser you can look at the nastiest porn in the world. It's like, at what point do you does that stuff not mesh anymore?
This is like Josh Kopstein's ultimate nightmare, right? Like every kid in 5 years will be born buying an iPad, with a store that decides what software you can have.
And this is why at some point there will be someone's going to bring a case. If the market share happens, like you're gonna see litigation that is kind of like what we saw with Microsoft in what 95 or whenever it was when they were litigating over the browser stuff. Someone's gonna say you can't do this anymore. Like, you can't be Apple here.
Right.
Like there has to be some restraint that is loosened.
The same way this happens to Google now when they introduce their own products in search, right next to it. These are our flight results and here are the, search results that you wanted. You can't really tell the difference. They're right next to each other.
Yeah.
But Google just slap on the wrist and get out of here. Don't want to see you
Please,
anywhere
Google.
again. All right, we got to wrap up. Do we want to talk about, was there anything else we want to talk about?
Apple has
Jobs.
one secret weapon.
Is it the Jobs movie with Ashton
the
Kutcher?
Jobs.
Oh, they got one movie. The movie that is going to change
Another
the
pro
tide.
segue from Ben Popper.
You mean?
Give it up.
I think you mean Jobs.
J-Hobes?
Jobs?
Jobs. The new movie starring Ashton Kutcher. Disclosure: he is a advisor to Vox Media.
He is. Or Vox, as I like to call
He's
it.
like Will Am.
mean
He's our
Vox.
innovation creationist
he's a chief.
specialist.
He's actually
Chief
working on
YOLO
iPhone.
advisor.
He's working on iPhone cases for us right now that have an awesome interchangeable lens. But there's a movie about the early days of Jobs. We saw a clip from it today, and he does. I will say this: Ashton Kutcher looks exactly like Steve Jobs when he was young, but when he speaks, it's like pure Kelso. All you can hear is Kelso. It's like Kelso talking about the advent of the modern computer. And it's weird, and I don't think I like it. But hey, you know what? I believe Ross Miller.
is at Sundance.
Ross is at Sundance. We are going to have...
premiere is tomorrow.
We are going to have exclusive...
shaky cam footage.
No, not
We're
footage.
going to pirate
We're going to have exclusive content related.
We're going to Vine the crap
here it is.
out of it.
Here it is right here. We're going to have exclusive review
By the way,
review content.
Wozniak today said to some other outlet, this scene never happened.
I was just working on it for my own. It was a hobby.
Exactly.
Listen.
For your own. For you. It's what you wanted. It's what your gut, your instinct wanted. Your big evolved brain wanted something and it didn't exist. So you just willed it into existence.
Jackie.
What do you call the system?
The operating system.
The operating system. And
That's
it
what
just
I call
shows
it. Yeah, it's just a real-time display of current operations.
you can see what you're working on while you're working on it.
Okay,
Don't you get this is freedom.
Couldn't he try to
This
do
is freedom
some voice
to
stuff?
create and to do and to build and as artists, as
But
individuals.
look, you're overreacting. Even if you were developing this for freaks like us, and I doubt you are, nobody wants to buy a computer. Nobody.
How does somebody know what they want if they've never even seen it?
Boom. Boom. Nailed it. I'm sorry. I don't know. That voice is just killing me. All right, I got to go. I'm late for dinner.
By the way,
I'm very mad.
Thanks for having me on,
Baltimore
guys.
Sun. Steve Wozniak challenges accuracy of the clip we just watched.
But it's a movie.
It's
Of
a
course
movie. I mean, how much
fictionalized
stuff
it.
is in Pirates of Silicon Valley that never happened?
Yeah.
Like that scene where Jobs stabs Wozniak while on acid.
Woz commented on Gizmodo, and then the Baltimore Sun somehow picked it up. I don't even know. Everything
don't go
about
down that
news on the
rabbit
internet
hole.
is terrible. Not close. We never had such an interaction of roles. I'm not even sure what it's getting at. Personalities are very wrong, although mine is closer. Don't forget, my purpose was inspired by the value.
The nerd personality does seem to be nailing it there.
Yeah.
It doesn't say much. That's pretty close to me.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know, man.
We got to go. We got to wrap it up.
It's all over.
That's the Vergecast this week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at vergecast@theverge.com. You can leave us a comment on the post when it goes up. We love that. We love to read your comments. They're always so
My Vine got vined.
polite. And of course, you can find us on Twitter. I'm Joshua Topolsky. Nilay is Reckless.
Yes.
Ben Popper is Ben Popper.
Also reckless on Vine.
He's also. I'm also Joshua Topolsky on Vine.
Yeah. Ben Popper on
Ben
Vine.
Popper on Vine.
Hashtag YOLO.
Not a way to find
Ben
it.
is fired once again.
And the Verge is at Verge. And that's the show. We'll be back next week. And until then, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened.
Rock and roll.
Paul.
YOLO.
Oh, we did